I want you all to be aware of something that I found just recently. When Anita Sarkeesian basically stopped doing video games, her Robin turned Nightwing Jonathan Macintosh continues the tale. Jonathan Macintosh is pretty damn busy on his pop culture detective channel. When Anita Sarkeesian has stopped, at least Macintosh is constantly being a lolcow, and that is always hilarious. So after McRobintosh turns into McKinwing, did I just really write that? I'm going to examine the conquest of Jonathan Macintosh on his pop culture detective and what he's been doing for the past couple of years. So this is his channel. This is the inception of his series. He made 2 episodes on Steven Universe, which I'm not going to explore because I haven't watched Steven Universe. I do notice that Jonathan loves to compile and explore the sensitive parts of Steven Universe, like the parts where the characters are vulnerable. For example, every hug in Steven Universe, every cry in Steven Universe. And I think that he used these clips to talk about the subversive boyhood of Steven Universe, which presumably contains him talking about how masculinity and being tough is bad and being vulnerable is good, which I don't get it, Macintosh. Every male protagonist suffers from some form of vulnerability. Even Arnold Schwarzenegger in Predator suffers from some form of vulnerability. I don't get why this trope needs to be highlighted. I can't see the productive value of talking about these tropes and saying that they're harmful. Which brings me to the discussion of tropes. Tropes are common recurring things that are happening in fiction. They're things that you notice happening constantly. For example, Tsundere is a trope that I've discussed in another video. I would recommend you guys to check out TvTropes. I would if the site wasn't managed by overly censorious lunatics. Instead, I would recommend All the Tropes, a competitor that caused the censorious Tumblrites on TvTropes to go full butthurt mode. All the Tropes is basically TvTropes with less Tumblrite nonsense and less restrictions and censorship. Tropes are ultimately tools for storytelling. If you're a starting writer, I recommend you all to read the site and recognize one of the essential tools of writing, understanding what those tools are, how they're done, and how to execute them properly. The tools are there, the execution is what matters, and understanding it is part of the success. Going back to Jonathan Macintosh here, in his latest video, he's discussing a trope that is called Born Sexy Yesterday. The laconic version of this trope is basically a character, usually female, who is sexy and has childlike innocence in her. Bringing in the example, he puts Quora from Tron Legacy, Lilo from The Fifth Element, and many others. Why is he discussing this trope in particular? Is he discussing of how the trope is executed? Is he discussing of how the trope should be done or can be done? Well, in some ways he discussed those, but mostly he's discussing of how the trope bothers him.
Includes a particularly egregious example of a trope that has bothered me for years.
Okay, in what way does the trope bother him? Well, the trope bothers him in a number of ways. His video is 18 minutes, but I'm gonna sum up what he's trying to say on the video and try to highlight the important points that I want to respond to. He's bothered that this trope is a male power fantasy. His criticism of the trope is that, like everything in Hollywood, this trope is written for men.
Like most things in Hollywood, Born Sexy Yesterday is written for men.
What? That's seriously bizarre, Macintosh. Hollywood is for men? Only men? Are you kidding me? Another criticism he has with the trope is that it's a male power fantasy. Why is this trope being a male power fantasy bothers him? Because
the trope rests on some troubling patriarchal ideas about female purity and virginity.
Or, as he loved to call it,
and that word is patriarchy. Dun dun dun. Lightning.
And here's where we start to see how the trope is constructed as a male fantasy. It's precisely her naivety and her innocence that allows her to see something special in him, something that other less innocent or more experienced women cannot.
The trope specifically is a fetishization of the power dynamics between a wiser, more experienced male and a naive, inexperienced female. The trope is deeply rooted and connected to fragile masculinity.
The subtext of the trope is rooted in a deep-seated male insecurity around sex and sexuality. The crux of the trope is a fixation on male superiority, a fixation with holding power over an innocent girl. But in order to make that socially acceptable, science fiction is employed to put the mind of that girl into a sexualized adult woman's body.
The reason why people, especially men, love this trope so much is because their masculinity is so fragile. They don't want to deal with women who have knowledge and experience. They want to deal with women that are innocent, childlike, and have zero understanding of the world around her. It's a fantasy based on fear. Fear of women who are men's equal in sexual experience and romantic history, and fear of losing the intellectual upper hand to women.
It's a fantasy based on fear. fear of women who are men's equal in sexual experience and romantic history, and fear of losing the intellectual upper hand to women.
Yeah, that's actually what he said, and the video ends with this.
So to all you would-be science fiction writers out there, I'll leave you with this. Innocence is not sexy. Knowledge and experience, on the other hand, now that's extremely sexy.
I don't know about you, but Macintosh is not exactly the person that I would be going for when dealing with what is and isn't sexy. Anyway, the one thing that bothers me throughout the video is that Macintosh's logic when dealing with this trope is pretty simple. When it's sexy and appealing for the man, it's bad. When it's not sexy,
that's extremely sexy.
He dismisses both Lilo and Korra as examples of a good version of this trope, while giving 7 of 9 from Star Trek Voyager a pass because the way she's handled in the show, it's not blatantly sexy.
7 of 9's relationship with the Doctor on Star Trek Voyager is a prominent example. Fans of that series will remember that the Doctor's own social naivety is never framed by the show as something sexy.
I know this image is counterproductive to his point, but whatever. Macintosh ignores the depth that both Lilo and Korra have in their stories and just focuses in how some of the fan service scenes distract him from their character. In other words, Macintosh will not see characters as characters the moment they flash their tits at him for just 1 second. That's the kind of characteristic that your typical game journalists have. Look, I understand. Fan service can be distracting in a lot of ways, but the problem with these Tumblr rights is that fan service or the male fantasy aspects of the show bother them so much to the point where they don't see characters who are involved in the fan service as characters. They see them as sex objects instantly the moment there's a fan service scene with them. That's the problem with him and Anita. Anita dismisses characters like Chitra from Far Cry 3 because she's sexy and she's designed to please the character, even though she's a great deceptive villain and an awesome character in that game. She just cannot move on to the fact that the character happens to be really sexy and might use her sexiness and beauty for her own malicious intent towards the player. It basically works like this. This is Anita seeing her character as a human being, but oh no, she's sexy. She's no longer a character. She can't be a character because she's been reduced into an object. Because every single human beings who are sexy are not human beings. Likewise, Macintosh ignores characters like Lilo and her importance to the story of the fifth element and instead focuses in how she's thrown into a sex object for the man, as if her only purpose is just that throughout the story. It's like watching Evangelion but stopped watching because Misato shows her underskirt in the first episode. Misato is the best, most developed, most human, and most relatable character in that entire series, who should have been the main character instead of that other brat that can go fuck himself, and you're gonna look over that because, oh, I can see her panties! Why can't these people just see characters as characters? Why do they have to see them as sex objects and just that only because they flash their tits for like a couple of seconds? There are people who get turned off with fan service, I get it, but this is beyond insane. This is just not a good way of enjoying anything. You're too much of a Puritan. You're starting to look and act like Mr. Bean. Oh, and by the way, Mr. Bean is a very good example of childlike innocence being contained into a male character who is probably an alien from outer space. Not sexy, but God knows how many times he's being naked throughout the show. This is a trope that has been for like ages, and it's not special to just women. If you guys haven't watched the Jet Li movie Unleashed, aka Danny the Dog, Jet Li's character is basically a kick-ass fighter, and he has a childlike innocence in him because he was being raised as a dog and not as a proper child. The plot of the movie is basically him encountering this blind man played by Morgan Freeman, and Morgan Freeman and his family trying to re-raise Danny to be a human being. If you haven't watched the movie, I highly recommend it. It kicks a lot of ass, and it breaks a lot of hearts too. Listen, Macintosh, Anita, not everything that is sexy is bad. Not everything that appeals to men is bad. Starfire, both on the comics and the animated series, is portrayed as naive and inexperienced to the world around her as well. But if you're gonna dismiss her as a bad character because OMG she dresses too sexy, the problem isn't with how the character is written. The problem is with how you perceive them. Don't project this as a problem that Hollywood has. This is a problem that you personally have. Raven is one of my favorite characters in the animated series, and she wears a freaking leotard. I don't care that she wears a leotard. It looks sexy, sure, but I mostly care about her character. Revy from Black Lagoon is sexy all the time, but I care more about her character and the fact that she can kick ass. Oh, by the way, Rock in that show is also portrayed as a naive, innocent guy entering Revi's world of crime. Also, as to your last point of how innocence is not sexy, well, not always. It's definitely attractive though. In some ways, it can be sexually appealing, but it's definitely appealing in general. The innocence of one's character can be one of the most defining traits of them. Characters that are innocent, shy, and awkward, even chicks dig them. Is it a male power fantasy to take care of these characters that are innocent? Yes, but that's like saying Revi taking care of Rock is a female power fantasy. That's like saying Misato taking care of Shinji is a female power fantasy. Yes, men absolutely dig women that are innocent, shy, and naive, the same way women absolutely dig men that are shy, innocent, and naive. So, how is this harmful? How is this going to impact the real world in some ways? Again, one of the reasoning that Macintosh gives is that this perpetuates the power dynamic of men dominating over women, and that it's a fantasy based on fear. Fear of women who are men's equal in sexual experience and romantic history, and fear of losing the intellectual upper hand to women.
It's a fantasy based on fear. Fear of women who are men's equal in sexual experience and romantic history, and fear of losing the intellectual upper hand to women.
That, or it's something that men enjoy in fiction?
Hentai.
Dun dun dun.
So that's his latest and most popular video. The second one that I want to talk about is about military recruitment and sci-fi. I'm going to talk it very briefly on this video because I implore you, I encourage you, all of you, to watch that video, link in the description, because it is the funniest thing that I have ever seen in a while. It's pure gold comedy that my commentary on that entire thing only ruins it. Seriously, go watch it and have a really damn good laugh. To sum it up, it's basically Macintosh shitting his pants at advertisement for Independence Day resurgence.
This whole Earth-space defense campaign is actually a surreptitious recruiting tool for the US Army.
I shit you not. I mean, it is the weirdest thing that I've seen in a while, and it's also the most hilarious thing that I've seen in a while. If you shit your pants on seeing promotional ads from a movie, at least have ones that actually make you shit your pants. No, 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 no. Do yourself a favor and don't ask me for that shit. Fine, it's in the description called "This is a special time." Fair warning, that video is going to increase your suicidal tendencies up to 100% and your chances of nightmare increase to 1100%. What's the next video?
You may have bumped into the term toxic masculinity.
Not fun. Undoom already did a video on this anyway. Donald Trump, lovable misogynist. The video consists of Macintosh basically saying Trump is a misogynist for loving women and that his personality is the equivalent to a lovable misogynist. Basically, playboy sort of characters that can get away with their expressions on loving women. There are God knows how many things that Macintosh thinks is misogyny, but it's actually not misogyny. He's just being overly sensitive about it as usual. Next, predatory romance in Harrison Ford movies. I can sum up his video by this line.
If you look beyond their charisma, Deckard, Han, and Dr. Jones all treat women badly.
Now what that entire show does is basically him analyzing certain tropes in a feminist lens of some sort, with certain recurring themes. Pop Culture Detective is a rather inaccurate title for his channel, to be honest. Pop Culture Feminist Detective is more accurate. He puts a lot more emphasis into analyzing how certain tropes in fiction treats women, which is like what Anita Sarkeesian did. I don't know why they decided to split up. They're practically doing the same thing. And while Anita's Batman is clearly dead, I think Macintosh's Nightwing should be a nice substitute for everything that Anita left. So, thanks Macintosh for bringing interesting things to respond to. I hope you get about as equally popular. Before we end this video, huge thanks to Cody Zilger for the pledge on Patreon. You are fantastic. And a huge thank you for, as of now, my biggest patron, Darfacetious. Thank you so much. You are fucking amazing. And a shout out to Kedamono with the fan art that makes me look like someone who is about to be a pony. It's really cute. Thank you so much. That's all for the video today. If you like this, you can go ahead, click the like button, and subscribe for more. If you wish, you can support me on Patreon. And thanks for watching.